And hello, guys. Everyone, welcome.
Hey! I shot first. This remastered crap with you going first doesn't work. Hey guys, welcome back to Fleetyards Mission Briefings. I'm Captain Foley.
And that was a skit. Ha 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 ha. And I'm Connor Coggins. Welcome back to Fleetyards Mission Briefing. What is Fleetyards Mission Briefing, Stuart?
It is a show where we take a look at ships from the wide multitude of sci-fi universes out there. Take one of the ships, examine it, pick it apart, try to learn more about it. Just first glance analysis, usually. Things we know based on different sci-fi franchises, things like that. And we take a look at it, and you do some fantastic renders for most of these ships, and we have some great pictures that we can look at and share information with you guys.
And this one is a fun one, but you've got a prop, which I believe is the way we should reveal this for those who haven't clicked on it on purpose.
Yes, I do. And here it comes. Look at this. Is it not beautiful and glorious? We're looking at the Millennium Falcon today, guys.
It is the YT-1300F light freighter.
Yes, it is. And this one, I did about 20... I built this probably about 22 years ago.
So obviously, pretty famous ship. Probably on the same iconic level as the Enterprise. And to some extent, Battlestar Galactica, that's a few rungs lower. Did you see Star Wars in the theater, the first one?
I would have been like...
Yeah,
I would have been like 3.
Yeah, I was minus many years. So, do you remember your first impression of this ship? And we'll go through it in a minute. But what's your first sort of overall opinion?
I do not remember my first impression because I grew up watching these all the time on VHS at home. So I do remember thinking at one point I didn't really like the asymmetry of it. I wish that the cockpit was in the center and it had like 2 radar dishes, or there were 2 like cockpit things on each side to make it look a little bit better. But now I love the asymmetry of it. I think it's a good way to go, and they do explain why it is that way.
Why 1300? Why?
Yes, because it's cargo modules and things. But I'm sure we'll get into talking about that a little bit later. But yeah, it's always been a hero ship to me. It's never been fantastic or anything. Although I would like in the expanded universe, he does fix it up and it's all shiny and gleamy and new at some point. I would love to have seen that on screen, a brand new, not a hunk of junk.
Yeah.
But you got to love it for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Star Wars Episode 4, or just Star Wars New Hope, is superb and it holds up so well today in pretty much every way. It's pretty great, and the fact they use the miniatures they put the time and effort into greebling them up, that's one of the key things. I mean, the design is excellent, but the quality of the greebling and the quality of the random stuff attached, it makes it more than some of its parts. And I love the asymmetry for sure. I love that it's a real world scale. You can know exactly how big it is and feel it is because of the cockpit. And it's a very, it's an oddly, it's kind of both boxy and not boxy, kind of smooth and elegant in some ways, but also it's a real mismatch. And I would love to do go into Parallel Universe and see this be introduced as a contemporary ship. How people react to it as a brand new design. None of us, I bet 80% of our audience, 90% of audience have always had this in their head. They can't go back and see it original. They know it's a great ship and you can't get away from that. So it's kind of like where would the unbiased view from it come from it. I'd love to see a fresh perspective, but as a designer it's very, very good, very cool, very interesting. Let's go to the next picture, Stuart.
Yes.
3D model, of course I had to find one, and this is the Star Wars Battlefront 1 model, kindly given to us by some clever guys, and I converted it and made it look shiny. And this is obviously because not that it's the hero model for a movie, so it's not like movie detail, but it's made by a game that is deliberately trying to be as accurate as possible, so it's as close to canon model as you can get. So what stands out to you then from this view?
It goes back to what you said. It's a sexy design, but at the same time it's not. It's a hunk of junk. And this is the view we always see it in. And again, you're right. You can see the inside the cockpit. You got a real sense of scale, and just I don't know. Everything about it is so good. And the weathering you see on all the different versions, I love that. It makes it feel very real world, very used.
Yeah, I'll say a thing that my mum actually said while I was prepping this episode, because she likes ships, likes stuff, but she forgets a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff, so she can give a first reaction to a lot of stuff even though she's seen it before. And the first thing she said was, "Oh, it looks nice, but look how many things are popping out the hull. Boy, is it vulnerable to damage and badly designed in that aspect." You know, I mean, if everything on the outside of the hull does something, then a single micro asteroid hitting any of those pipes, hitting any of those boxes, I mean, if they're all worth something, boy, should they be under armor. I know it's a rust bucket, that's fine. But
yeah, I agree, but I think it has a lot of redundancies as well. So if one thing does get damaged,
that's just Chewie hitting it with a wrench. I don't think it does.
Well, yeah, I like to compare this or my car, my '79 Camaro, to the Falcon, because it's beautiful, but it doesn't always work properly, and you know, there's been times where the radio's gone out and I kick the bottom of the dashboard and everything comes back on. I laugh every time he hits it and everything comes back on. So I'm like, that's just like my damn car. You love it, but at the same time, it frustrates the hell out of you.
Let's talk about scale, though. Obviously, we can see the scale, but can you really see the scale? I know you can't, so I'm going to show some scale shots. But what do you think, size-wise, as we tend to do, compare it to like a runabout, you know, a big-sized ship, even compared to an X-Wing? How big is this ship, really?
Well, when you say runabout has 2 seats up front, so does the Falcon. Also has 2 seats at the side, just like the Falcon. So I assume that the runabout's roughly the same size as far as length goes, maybe, because there's quite a bit of room in the back of a runabout. Maybe a little bit smaller. X-Wing, it's pretty obvious, you know, the size, because it's just a single-person craft, so you can kind of get a feel for that. But yeah, it's not huge. It's not a huge ship, but it's big enough.
And we know that when they designed it, it's a certain scale on the outside. When they built the entire internal set and an external partial, that was 2/3. I think that's it's like 3/5 for the Force Awakens. Yeah, Force Awakens. They're all different, so it's never actually been represented at its full scale, because that's kind of, you don't need it to be that. It's just big, you know. So it's kind of tricky to really get a sense. But Stuart, let's go to the next picture and look at some real scales. So as you guys can imagine, it's a real runabout model, a real BSG Viper, Raptor, Shuttlepod, X-Wing is also from Battlefront 1, and the real Star Fury, all original models using the real scales from the 3D models as defaults. And I put the Shuttlepod in there just because you can really get a sense of how big that zone is. So what do you think?
Well, I was right on the runabout. That's basically where it looked. I thought it was in my head. But compared to all these other ships, yeah, I mean, I would never think that an NX Shuttlepod would be quite that small, but when you actually start looking at the interior and compare it to the size of the cockpit, yeah, it's actually pretty interesting to see this view and see this kind of thing. And most of those are like single or 2 pilot kind of crafts, so yeah, it's a great comparison. It is a cargo vessel as well. We got to remember, so it is designed to haul passengers or cargo.
Well, it's worth then reading out a little bit of what it actually was designed for.
So the basic YT-1300 light freighters its basic shape is defined by 2 convex saucers welded together and pairing of front-facing mandibles and an outrigger-style side-mounted cockpit with transparent steel viewports. Apart from the shape of the chassis, the Falcon retained a little of the off-the-dock instrumentation because its successive owners either upgraded it or downgraded it based on their requirements, making this quite a unique ship. And I think each one that's privately owned would be modified differently.
But the front scale or the top scale never always represents. Let's go to the side scale to see a better indication. And again, I do love having an accurate model because again, I you know, the side view, the fact the tip sort of goes in a bit, I always forget that's there. But what do you think about the side scale then?
Again, when you compare it to runabout, it doesn't seem that big, because we've seen runabouts landed and, you know, again, the shuttle pod from NX seems really small compared to it, which is kind of surprising to me. But I mean, it's big enough to do what it needs, and I think it's a hefty little vessel. It's a tough little ship.
It as always, it makes me appreciate how capable the Viper is from BSG, how small it is, but how incredibly maneuverable, ton of ammo, ton of speed.
Yeah.
You know, I'd love to see this versus that, because it seems so thin, so small. The X-Wing's obviously bigger in every regard. It's got prone to pierce as well. And I threw in the X-Wing, TIE Fighter, sorry, to show, obviously it's just the wing, but, it's interesting how different sort of profile it would have. And, yeah, lots of cool different ships.
Yeah, profile is very unique on this ship. It's very cool. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the internals, and there's lots to kind of look at. These Star Wars books do a fantastic job of doing these cutaways, and there's lots to examine and look at. And I've even got my shirt on, so I can compare it to make sure. One of the things that I find the most coolest about this is the center part, right at the front where the mandibles are. How there's like a small room there, which would be for the docking containers. You could attach them and then, walk through the docking containers even all the way to the end. If you believe in that. A lot of people don't believe that that's how that was designed, to have those cargo modules put in there, but I like to think that's kind of cool. And also the concussion missiles at the front there too.
Yeah, all the early toy versions of this ship, that middle bit housed a gun. That was where its big torpedoes were, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, as well.
Well, my original one doesn't have a gun there. It's just a big empty space.
I mean, a gun in the sense that it fired something. It fired little... I'm just saying what I had as a kid. Multiple toys that they shot. And obviously, as you see, it has torpedoes there. I don't know where... you never see them fired from there, and I don't know where they would fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they're there, but they're not there. But I definitely think we should see like a Star Wars movie, a Star Wars show where we see just a normal version doing normal things. I believe in like Rebels or Clone Wars we see something, but we never really we don't get on board of it or see it fully. But nice to see like a bog standard or even like a little Star Wars short. Day in the life of a T-1300. Yeah, cargo freighter, just like an average day on a perfectly working ship.
Yeah, who's not fighting anybody or smuggling anybody illegally, just a regular day. Here too, I mean, you've got the guns, the upper and lower guns, which I think we're going to take a look at closer in detail later. But I've always wondered if there's just you on board or just you and a co-pilot, who fires those? Can they be fired from the cockpit, or do you have to sit in them like they do in Star Wars? That's always bugged me. Because I know there are little guns that pop out and but I'm not sure how effective those are against like a TIE fighter. And there has been instances where they've been firing at things, I think, without anybody being in the guns. So...
Well, I mean, this is... I'm about to say it's the future, it's not, it's the very far past. But they have robots, I'm sure there's automated targeting. We've seen... I mean, again, in video games, you can control lesser weapons from the cockpit, and if you don't believe there's these big proton torpedoes, then I'm not sure what gun they're firing. I would assume it's the top or the bottom. But if you do a manual control, then you have all this flexibility and you can do them independently. I mean, although, if you're actually smuggling, the first thing you do, give them both AI control, they can act independently. I mean, that'd be the first thing you do. But yeah, again, if you're only a single person, you're not going to try to fight your way out, are you? But if you have a crew, then boom, that's the solution to the problem anyway. So it's kind of, situational.
Well, they are meant to have a crew of at least 4.
Yeah.
So
a special situation, and then I think you're doomed anyway. My favourite thing about this design, and we'll get into it in a minute with the next picture, is that the internal space, they actually built a set. You could walk around it and everything connected. And you really... I mean, see this picture, you can see where Luke was training. You could walk, just two steps that way. You get to the hiding compartments, you walk 2 steps, you get in the corridor into the bridge module. It's all interconnected and very relatable. Although not so much the back section. Not really sure how that all fits, but yeah.
Especially on the toy, the back sections where you sit. They really screwed that up, guys.
Yeah.
There's so much to look at and so much detail. Like, we could talk about this for hours, literally.
But instead, let's jump to the next picture, because it has some clearer stuff, which shows us the deck plan. And it's really fascinating. And again, I love the Ebon Hawk, as you guys know from Old Republic, and that is obviously iteration on this. And so I know the inside of that like the back of my hand. Star Trek joke. And it's quite similar to this. Obviously, they just rearranged it, but to fit everything in that shape is quite difficult and limiting because you're losing all this space. But I wonder how much they actually built, because I don't remember ever seeing necessarily all the rooms. I mean, well, I can't really put a lot of the rest of it together in my head, you know? Like, we don't just see a walk round of the ship, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's more movies coming, so we'll see more then. One thing that's always confused me too is where did the landing pads go? Because there isn't, when you really break it down, there isn't a whole lot of internal room in this thing, and we have seen the interior, how it circles around. There's, depending on which version you're looking at, there's 5 to 6 landing pads. This one only has, this one's only got 3 actually. But this one's broken off. But some versions have these as landing pads as well, as you see there, actually. When it takes off from Cloud City, it looks like there's, I think, 6. So, and they're pretty substantial. They got to fold up in there somehow. So I've always been curious as to where those go exactly, because there isn't a whole lot of room. But
I mean, it's like the Stargate pole jumper. The engines don't fit in anywhere. They can't. So there's those things that sometimes you just gotta accept. It's like, it's not gonna.
Just a movie, guys.
Oh, yeah. No, I would love to walk through this. I mean, we walked through the Enterprise. The next objective is to walk through Millennium Falcon.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, and just to get an actual sense of the internal space, because that's kind of special.
Yeah, it really changes things when you're there. Because then every time you watch it afterwards, you can relate to where things are, how big they are. It looks way different on screen for sure. Yeah. So the next picture is a shot of it from the 3/4 shot from the back. I always loved the back of this thing, the streaking off of it from entering atmospheres, and the rust, and that's like the fun thing to detail and have look good. And I always wondered what these big round things were. As a kid, I'm like, why are there vents back there? But I guess it makes sense, like some kind of turbine cooling off the engine, or.
Well, you got to ask yourself. I mean, when the dude designed it, he designed the base shape. But all these things, I mean, they didn't really like in Star Wars. How's a hyperdrive work? By turning it on.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't work out the science. It's fantasy, not sci-fi. With Star Trek, they obviously worked it out. So all these pieces are kind of like they've been retconned back into what they do, and yet still it's more than some of its parts. It's not too cluttered. It's not too full on. It's got a lot of good details that don't overshadow anything else.
And the good thing is, everything can be retconned and explained, which fans have done. I mean, there's different cutaways, different deck plans that are slightly different. So it's fun to see different interpretations on the same thing. But they make sure that everything has a purpose and everything works, which I really appreciate the time and thought that goes into those kind of things. I just wish everybody could be on the same page as to what it is, but
yeah,
it is what it is. Canon versus side canon and non-canon and fan canon.
Yeah, and Trekyards canon when we try and invent new things. So, quick question, slash would it be an improvement? You've got these two symmetrical pieces that stick out either side, and they're ramps, or at least one side is the ramp. Would it make more sense, slash would it look good if actually as well it was also a docking port for capital ships? So you didn't have to dock inside a bay every time. We need a door there. Umbilicals on. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense, to be honest. We see that in other sci-fi franchises that they have docking ports because that's something you would need to access from the outside. But that being said, those side things in a lot of different versions are also escape pods for the crew.
Oh yeah.
So.
Well, I guess one side would be because the other side is a door. It's a ramp.
Well, yeah, the ramp kind of starts back a little bit, so it could still fit like one or two people in there, maybe somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen them labeled as escape pods before, and that kind of makes sense in a way. But then you say the ramp and stuff, and you kind of does it really make sense though? Yeah, see, and that's the thing that kind of irks me about these ships. Like, I love them to pieces, but when people try to explain things, everybody's got a different explanation, and it's just really hard to come to consensus. So,
yeah. And speaking of consensus, let's look at the bottom view, which we all can agree looks fine.
See,
yes.
on my shirt, It says port docking ring. So
Yeah.
it is a docking ring on my shirt.
And your shirt is canon, so. I mean, same on this other one. If you go back to picture 5, which is kind of why I was doubling down on that. But it doesn't exactly look a door. I mean, it doesn't have the real vibe, and there's kind of a space that could separate, but it doesn't really. We know what's start well. But again, that would make sense. You know, one side's a door, one side's a ramp. I mean, that's quite functional. That's what I would do, but different details would be nice there.
That is this week's Trekyards done and dusted. Next week, we've got another great part.
Yes, the continuation. Next week. Tune in.
So 7 days and just click on that link. So we'll see you then.
See you then, guys.